Genesis 17. And Abraham reached the age of 99. Wow. And the Lord revealed himself to Abraham and said to him, I am the El, the Almighty. Worship before me and be without fault. And I shall make my covenant, my promise, a new promise between me and for you. And I shall enrich you exceedingly. Right, give him all he wants. Right? So what does that say? Genesis 1:17. 1:1. Literal Aramaic idiomatic figure of speech. I am I. I am that I am. I am. I am the I am. Yeah. Okay. The Almighty El Shaddai. Hebrew is El Shaddai because his sister languages. So yeah, at that point it would mean the same thing. The title would mean the same thing in English. Okay. Okay. And Abraham fell on his face, and God spoke and commanded him. Well, he did just like, like that. He got down on his hands and knees and bowed, prostrated himself, rather like Muslims do in their mosque to God. Yeah. And Abraham fell on his face, and God spoke and commanded him. Look, well, behold, I shall make my promise, my new promise with you, and you shall become the father of many nations. Yeah. Your name will not be called again Abram, except your name shall be Abraham, because I give you as father to many nations. And I shall make you plentiful and increase your numbers. Well, you have millions of descendants, millions and millions of them. And I shall give you to the nations, and there will emerge kings from your progeny, right, from your descendants, your progenitors. And I shall make you plentiful and increase your numbers as well, blah blah blah, progeny. And I shall make my covenant, my promise with you and with your offspring in the centuries until the resurrection, until eternal life. And I shall be your God and the God of your offspring after you. Right? At the end, right, the end of the world, and all are raised up and resurrected into eternal life. That's what he's talking about, I'm pretty sure. It doesn't have a footnote for that. It does. 7. 17:7. Literal Aramaic idiomatic construction. Stand by my stance be between me and to you. 17:7:2. Literal Aramaic idiomatic expression. To the rising of to the end of the universe. Okay, yeah. The resurrection, and all shall be judged, etc., etc. Resurrection to life, everlasting life. And I shall be your God and the God of your offspring after you. And I shall give you and your offspring the land where you reside, all the land of Canaan, until the inheritance of life eternal. And I shall be to them their God. Okay, so for all time until the resurrection and life eternal, and he shall be to them their God, all his descendants. And God said to Abraham, you uphold my covenant, you stand by it, my promise, you and your offspring after you in the centuries, in the years to come, millenniums to come. This is my covenant, my promise that you will uphold between me and you, that you shall circumcise every male. Okay? That was to show that they were sanctified by God, that they're part of their covenant. Okay, this is my covenant that you will uphold between me and you, that you shall circumcise every male, and that you will circumcise the flesh of your uncircumcision. What does that mean? 11. Where are we? Banishment. Circumcise the circumcision. 17:14. Uncircumcision. Where are we? 11. And that you will circumcise the flesh of your uncircumcision. Well, that means that, like, you haven't been circumcised, so there's a term for it. You're uncircumcised, so you will get yourself circumcised, right? This is my covenant, or my promise that you will uphold between me and you, that you shall be circumcised every male, and that you will circumcise the flesh of your uncircumcision, and it shall be a sign of the covenant between me and you. So once you got the chop, it's a sign of your covenant with God. You're under that covenant with God. You've gone from having a skin to having none, right? Basically, that's it. Okay. And after 8 days you shall circumcise every male of yours. For kids. Kids, 8 days. You shall circumcise every male of yours according to their lineage, the descendants who are born at home and bought with money from all the sons of foreigners who were not of your seed. Okay, so we're 12. 17, 12. Okay. Okay. So everyone that was in that tribe had to be circumcised from 8 days old to the uncircumcised older people, older adults, right? Okay, here's a rule, commandment: you must circumcise the babies of your household, and those purchased with money, and my covenant shall be in your flesh to the resurrection of life eternal. Okay, and the uncircumcised male whose flesh of banishment is not circumcised, that soul is lost from its people. You have then voided my covenant. If you don't do it, right, you're not part of that covenant. You've made it void, right? So God said to Abraham, Sarai, your wife, her name shall not be called Sarai, because her name is Sarah. And I bless her, and also I give you a son from her, and I shall bless him, and he shall be the progenitor of nations, and kings of the nations shall be from him. And Abraham fell on his face and laughed. And he said in his heart, after 100 years a son is born, and Sarah after 90 years will bear a child. I couldn't believe it, right? It's just virtually impossible. Even he knew that, And Abraham said to God, Ishmael then will get married. Okay, jumped the gun somewhere. Ishmael then will get married and live according to your will. Because she couldn't give him a child, the womb was all sealed up. So she suggested he take her concubine, Hagar the Egyptian. She wasn't a Arab in that sense, like the Muslim. She wasn't one of them, right? She wasn't an Arab. She was an Egyptian that came out of, pretty sure, did I chip the gun or something? Okay, it's saying here Ishmael. I'm pretty sure that's Ishmael, born of Hagar the Egyptian, concubine from Egypt, when they left. So maybe she left with them. Not really sure on that one. Okay, oh my gosh. And Abraham said to God, Ishmael then will get married and live according to your will. Okay, what he dictates, I guess. And God said to Abraham, truly your wife Sarah will give birth to a child for you, and you shall call him Isaac, and I shall make my covenant, a promise with him, a new promise with him to the end of the universe, and with his offspring after him. And as for Ishmael, whose name signifies your obedience, 20. Idiomatic expression, goodly. His son and all the boys of his household, and all those who were bought with his money, all the male men of the house of Abraham, and he circumcised the. Oh my gosh. How have I gone? Okay, Ishmael then will get married and live according to your will. And God said to Abraham, truly your wife Sarah will give birth to a child for you, and you shall call him Isaac, and I shall make my covenant or promise with him to the end of the universe, and with his offspring after him. And as for Ishmael, whose name signifies your obedience, behold, I shall bless him and enrich him, and I will make him a great man indeed. He shall bring forth 12 great rulers, and they shall provide him with a great nation. And my covenant I shall make with Isaac, or promise, whom Sarah will bear for you in this lifetime and another year. Okay. For this season. Okay, that's what it means. And as he concluded speaking to him, God went up from Abraham. And Abraham fetched Ishmael his son, and all the boys of his household, and all those who were bought with his money, all the male men of the house of Abraham, and he circumcised the flesh of their banishment on that very day, just as God had told him to do. So they all got circumcised to be part of that covenant within that tribe. And Abraham was 90 years old when he circumcised the flesh of his banishment. And Ishmael his son was 13 years when he circumcised the flesh of his banishment. On that very day Abraham circumcised his son Ishmael, and all the men in his household born in his house, and bought him with his money. And he also circumcised the sons of the foreigners who were with him. Yeah, if you wanted to remain there, you had to get the chop, rush you out of there. Okay, Genesis 18. And the Lord revealed himself to him while he was at the chestnut of Mamre, and he sat in the entrance of his abode when the day became hot. And he raised his eyes and saw, behold, 3 men standing from above, from where he was, and he saw them and ran from the entrance of his abode to meet them, and fell on his face on the ground and he worshipped. Okay, so that's how they obviously used to praise God. They get on their hands and knees, on their face, prostrate themselves, just like Islam. And the Lord said, if you can find mercy in your eyes for them, do not neglect the service. And it goes on and on, right? You're probably familiar with that story. Supposedly Sarah's supposed to have a wife. She laughs, what, at my age or whatever. So she was told by these 3 men, one of them supposedly the Lord, supposedly 3 angels, that she was going to have a child. Abraham and Sarah were old and aged in years, and Sarah was beyond the age of a childbearing woman. So Sarah laughed in her heart and said, after being, or maybe in her mind, after being all worn out, I will become young again, but will my husband remain an old man? And the Lord said to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh and say, truly could I bear a child in my old age? Where's her faith? Is that too great a fear for the Lord? Then she returned to you in the season revitalized, and a son is born to your wife Sarah. And Sarah blasphemed and says, I did not laugh, it's because I was scared. And he said, do not laugh henceforth. Yeah, she was mocking God. Right. She got warned. She made an excuse, I did not laugh, because she was scared. Justified, perhaps. And the men got up from there and set their gaze upon Sodom, and Abraham went out with them to see them off. And the Lord said, how could I hide from my servant Abraham what I am about to do? So I think he might have revealed it. And the Lord said, the outrage of Sodom and Gomorrah has come to my attention, and their sins have sunk low. I shall go see if the outrage that was brought to my attention is what they actually do, and if not, I will know. Okay. And the men turned back from there and went to Sodom, and Abraham was still standing before the Lord. Okay, so he must have been either in the spirit, standing before God up in the kingdom, or else the Son of God, the Multa, the manifestation, was actually there. And Abraham, because remember in the Tower of Babel, the Lord came down and dwelt amongst men to see what they were doing. And Abraham drew near and said, do you distinguish your anger between the righteous and the sinner as you send them to oblivion? And if there are 50 righteous individuals in a village with the same wrath, will you annihilate them, and will you not even spare the country for the sake of 50 righteous ones? Heaven forbid that you should resolve this by killing the righteous together with the unrighteous, and that the righteous should be regarded as the unrighteous. Heaven forbid that the judge of the whole earth should perform such a judgment. So sounds like Abraham's questioning God. And the Lord said, if there can be found in Sodom 50 righteous individuals living in town, I will forgive all the country for their sake. I think he was saying that because maybe his nephew Lot was living there. If he could find 50 that were righteous, I will forgive all the country for their sake, if we could find 50. And Abraham replied and said, behold, I have been allowed to speak for the Lord, and yet I am but dust and ashes. Allowed to speak for the Lord and argue with him. So one didn't go zap, And if there are 5 less righteous ones than 50, will you destroy the entire town because of the 5? He said, no, I will not destroy it if I find there 45. Okay, and he keeps questioning him. What if you found 40? What if you found 35? What if you found 20? What if you found 10? And he realised, I might be teasing God off by keep on asking him, if this one time, what if there are 10? I will not destroy it. He keeps telling him, like, if you find some righteous and it didn't get through his head, if you find 1 or 2 or 5 righteous people there, I'll spare them. I'll spare that whole country. And the Lord went away as he concluded his conversation. He ended it with Abraham, and Abraham returned to his country. Okay. Yeah. It ended the conversation. It just went on and on and on, probably. And then there came 2 angels to Sodom, messengers, in the evening, and Lot's place was at the entrance to Sodom. That's probably where he was staying, or where his tents were. And Lot saw them and went out. Could mean that he just happened to be there at the time, to meet them on the road, and he fell on his face and worshipped them. They liked falling on their faces in those days. And he said, I beg you, my lords, head for the house of your servant, and I will accommodate you and wash your feet, and tomorrow you can be on your way. And they said, no, we will stay at the inn. He was inviting them in, trying to butter them up. He didn't want them to come in. And I wonder if he had a plan, if he knew the plan. Come in and do their wrath upon all these people. And they had not fallen asleep before the townspeople. The people of Sodom had already encircled the house, from the young to the old, and all the people of their ilk. And they called out to Lot and told him, hey, where are those men who came to you in the night? Bring them out, let us get to know them. In the modern American Bibles it says, let's have sex with them. Let's mess with them. But in this one it says let's know them, which I think is hinting at that. You get, I like the American versions. He knew his wife Eve, right? Meaning that he slept with her. He united. They became one in the flesh. Bring us out. Let us get to know them. So Lot went out the door to hide. Went out to them, and those inside closed the door behind him. And Lot told them, do not let it bother you, brethren. Behold, I have 2 children that have not known a man. I'll let them go out to meet you, and so you can do to them what is proper in your eyes. And do not do anything to these men, because they have entered under the shelter of my abode. They are visitors, don't touch them, but I'll give you my virgin daughters, and you can do whatever's appropriate. What's appropriate when you got 2 daughters chucked at a whole village of men? Come on, man. And they just scream, get out of the way, move aside. 9, Genesis 19:9. 19:9. Out to one side, get out the way, old fool. And they said, you are the one who settled among us, and behold, you dare judge us. Okay. Judge the judgment, okay. Now we will treat you worse than them. And Lot wrestled with the men fiercely, and they nearly broke down the door. So he had to go, but he wasn't strong enough, because there's plenty of them. Probably the whole damn town. One man against 50 or 60 or more. And the men inside extended their hands and pulled Lot back into the house, and they secured the door. And the men outside the house were blinded by the light rays from the small to the great, and they were no longer able to find the door. Wow. And the men said to Lot, why did you do this? Your sons-in-law and daughters and everyone you have in the house, take them out of this country. They're in trouble, in danger. Okay, because you're going to destroy. Going to destroy this country, for their outrage has risen before the Lord, and the Lord has sent us to destroy them. And Lot went out and spoke to the sons-in-laws who had married his daughters, and he told them, get up and leave this country, because the Lord will destroy it. But in the eyes of his sons-in-laws, it seemed like he were humouring him. They thought he was joking, so they didn't pay him any heed, I guess. And as the dawn ascended over the horizon, the angels pressed Lot and told him, get up and fetch your wife and your 2 daughters that you can find, lest they are swallowed up in the sins of the town. Yeah, these sons-in-laws just laughed at him, mocked him, and go away, old man. You're having us on. Okay. Yes, they took his daughters out of there, and as they took them out, they said, "Save your souls, save your soul. Do not look back, worried about not having gotten everything out." Yeah, you're in a hurry, get out of here. Bummer, you left some things behind. Your 2 sons-in-laws, go to the mountains so that you won't perish. And Lot said to them, I pray, my lords, behold, your servant has found mercy in your eyes, and much is the grace that you have shed on me to save my soul, that I cannot make it to the mountain, and if evil should overtake me, I will surely die. Behold, this town is near, so let me flee there. Behold, it is a small thing, my life will be spared there. Okay, it's 19. Okay, he's old, he can't walk very far, I suppose, so he's saying, it's too damn far, I'll probably putter out before I even make the mountains. So yeah, here's the easier thing to do. Let's go to this place just over there. Town nearby. Okay. 19. You can't exit to the mountains. Yeah, he's too old. He'll never make it. Okay. Yes, town is near, so let me flee there. Behold, it is a small thing, my life will be spared there. And he told him, the messenger, I guess, because I cannot do anything until you enter it. I think the messenger was telling, the angel was telling him, quickly go out there, because I cannot do anything until you enter it. Okay, so he's got to get him out of there, then do the wrath. Yeah, while he's still there, he can't do anything because he's a righteous person, right? Something like that. I thought, no, there was 5, wasn't it? 2, him and his wife, and his 2 daughters. That's 3. That's 5, isn't it? Lot, his wife, and his 2 daughters. That's 4, right? So if there was 5, then God would have spared the whole country. Or 10. Yeah, so the 2 sons would have been 6. I guess still not enough. Okay, anyway. Okay, so quickly go out there, because I cannot do anything until you enter it. That is why the name of the town is called Zoar. The sun rose over the earth, and Lot headed for Zoar. 22. What's Zoar mean? Literal Aramaic name, oath. Okay. Oath. That's the name of Zoar is oath. Is it like a promise? And the Lord, or creed, something like that. And the Lord brought down the fire and brimstone upon Sodom and Gomorrah. Sulfur, fire and sulfur. Upon Sodom and Gomorrah from before the presence of the Lord in heaven. Okay, so it came down. It's basically saying, yeah, it came down from God above, from His presence, onto the earth, fire and brimstone. And fire lashed out at those cities and all the surrounding areas, and all those who inhabited the land and lived off the land. None shall escape, right? They're all evil. And Lot's wife turned around, looked behind her, and turned into a figure of salt. Okay, I think in the American versions, Americanized modern version, it says that they were told by these angels not to look back. Yeah, but she did, out of curiosity, and got turned into a figure or pillar of salt. And in the morning Abraham set off to the land where he stood before the Lord. That promised land, is it? Canaan? Yeah, country. Idiomatic figure of speech, country. The country that in the morning Abraham set off to the land where he had stood before the Lord, and he gazed upon the face of Sodom and the face of Gomorrah and the face of all the surrounding countryside, and behold, he saw the smoke rising above the land like a smoke of the fiery pit. Wow, would that have been an atomic explosion, nuclear explosion type mushroom cloud? Or was just that it was just burning? Right. Yeah, we're getting hit with sulfur, fire and sulfur, yeah, sure. Wouldn't be surprised. And behold, as God destroyed the cities of wilderness, God recalled Abraham and sent Lot out of the deluge of fire, and he poured down the fire on the towns of that Lot had inhabited. So Lot went up from Zoar and settled in the mountains, he together with his 2 daughters with him, because he felt the suspicion of the inhabitants there, and thus he settled in the outlying area, he and his 2 daughters. Who's suspicious of the inhabitants? Okay, so look at that, 30. Literal Aramaic idiomatic expression, the submission to. Didn't trust him, I guess. Didn't trust the inhabitants. Well, he had 2 daughters. He felt the suspicion of the inhabitants. So look at that again. Submission. And thus he settled in the outlying area, he and his 2 daughters. And the elder said to the younger one, behold, our father is getting old, and there are no men in the land. They must be getting the itch, so that we may go to them according to the way of the world. Okay, so they wanted to get impregnated. They want to get pregnant by the sounds of it. 32. Nothing there. 1930. It's 31, this one. Idiomatic expression, Aramaic 1931, literal Aramaic idiomatic expression, the way of all the earth. Yeah, they wanted to get laid, they wanted to get pregnant, have some kids, have some offspring, but there's no men around. And they served their father wine in the night until he got drunk off his tree, right? And the elder daughter went in and slept with the father, and he did not know if he was sleeping with him, and her getting up. Her getting up. 1937 too, literal Aramaic idiomatic construction. He became the father of the Moabites to those days. Her sleeping and rising, sorry. Come, let us get our father drunk with wine and sleep with him, and raise offspring from our father, of my father. And they served their father wine in the night until he got drunk, and the elder went in and slept with their father, and he did not know if he was sleeping with him, and he was getting up. He was sleeping and her rising. And it was on another day, and the elder said to the younger one, behold, I slept in the evening with my father, let us get him drunk this night also, enter and sleep with him, and let us raise offspring from our father. See, they both wanted it, right? They both wanted to get pregnant, have children. There's no men around, so he's the only man, so you get him drunk and do the naughties. And both daughters of Lot became pregnant from their father. Incest, right there. Because they're desperate, that's why. They wanted children. And the elder gave birth to a son, and she named him Moab. He is the father of the Moabites to this day. Moab. He became the father of the Moabites to these days. 1938. And the younger one, she too gave birth to a son and named him Ammon. He is the father of the Ammonites to this day. Okay, so 1938. Son of my uncle. Okay? Son of my uncle. 38. And the younger one, she too gave birth to a son, and she named him Ammon. He is the father of the Ammonites to this day. Son of my uncle, of my father. Got a bit of confusion there. 2 daughters, one younger, one older, one younger. Named him Ammon, son of my uncle. Weird. It's weird. It's the father. Maybe she was adopted. Not really sure. She's calling him his uncle. That her son is of her uncle. That's kind of strange. 1937, and the older gave birth to a son, and she named him Moab, of my father. And the younger one, she too gave birth to a son, and she named him Ammon, son of my uncle. Doesn't sound right there. Son of my uncle. So maybe she was adopted. Or maybe she wasn't actually a daughter in that sense. The older one was, but the younger one wasn't. She's like an adoptee. Yeah? Daughter by name only, not by birth. I'm not sure on that one. I have to go study more now because it sounds kind of weird. Okay, you got Genesis 20. Did the Ammonites get wiped out, or was the Amalekites? Yeah. Abraham had taken off from there and moved to the southland, and had settled as a result of his victory in Beth Gader. And so Abraham had lived in Gader. And Abraham had said regarding to Sarah, she is my sister. Abimelech, the king of Gader, had sent for Sarah to be fetched. Okay, another one that's in love with her because she's pretty. God had come to Abimelech in a dream and told him, behold, look, you shall die for the sake of the wife you have fetched, because she is the wife of another man. And Abimelech had not made her his bride, hadn't married her yet. So Abimelech said, Lord, do you kill a holy too? Do you kill a holy nation? He had not betrothed her. He is the one who said, she is my sister. He's talking about Abraham. And it was her that said, she is my brother also. Yeah, it was with an honest heart and clean hands that I did this. Okay, so he's innocent, right? And God told him in the dream, I too know that you did this with an honest heart. Yeah, he's an honest man. And it was I who decreed your celibacy, and that you may not sin against me. Okay, so yeah, he warned him in the dream, I guess, before he did it. Okay, knowing he was an honest man, that is why I did not allow you to marry her or betroth her. Okay. Now return the man's wife, for all is prophesied, and they shall pray over you. And if you do not return her, know this, that you shall die the final death. You'll go to oblivion, you'll perish for all eternity, together with all yours. Everyone suffers because of you, the mistake. And there arose Abimelech at dawn and called his servants, and he spoke all these words in their ears, and they relented in fear, every one of them among them. There must have been more good people. And Abimelech called on Abraham and said to him, what did I do to you? How did I sin against you, that you should accuse me and my kingdom of such sins? You put me in an impossible situation. Okay, 29 little Aramaic. Yeah, made a figure of speech in many sins. Okay, you put him in an impossible situation, a predicament, right? Like he was an honest man. If he had gone the other way, everyone would have been wiped out by God, and he would have been the cause of it. And Abimelech said to Abraham, what was it that you saw that made you reply in this manner? Besides, she is truly my sister, my father's daughter, but not my mother's. She became my wife. Okay, what did he say? And Abraham said, because I said, why is there no fear of God in this country? They will kill me for the sake of my wife. He assumed that there was no fear of God in that country, and they'd kill him for the sake of his wife because she's beautiful. Besides, she truly is my sister, my father's daughter, but not my mother's. She became my wife. Okay, let's have a look at that again. Let's highlight that. And Abraham said, because I said, why is there no fear of God in this country? They would kill me for the sake of my wife. Okay, we got that, because she was beautiful. Besides, she truly is my sister, my father's daughter, but not my mother's. She became my wife. So, let's get my head around that. She is truly my sister, my father's daughter, but not my mother's. So he had another wife? She is truly my sister. He's not saying that in the sense that your brothers or sisters if you're of God. So he's saying she truly is his sister, his wife is his sister, his father's daughter, but not my mother's. So would she be his step sister or half sister? So she became his wife. She was not born of his mother, but she was born of his father, through his father's seed, to another, not his mother. Yeah. And so it happened that when God sent me up from my father's house, I told her, do me this favour, whatever country you go to, tell them I am your brother. Abimelech fetched flocks and bulls, servants and maidens, and he gave them to Abraham, and he returned Sarah his wife. And Abimelech said to Abraham, behold, look, the land before you, settle wherein appeals to your eyes. And to Sarah he said, behold, I give 1,000 pieces of gold into your hands, and behold, I also give this to you for the sake of shutting up those who are with me, and for your being scandalized. So he's trying to put things right. He made a mistake, but he didn't make the mistake. Okay, so he was deceived. Then Abraham prayed on his knees before God, and God healed Abimelech, his wife, who was already married, and all his maidens. Okay, so in those days they could marry as many as they wanted, I suppose, as many as they chose to. And he was granted offspring, because the Lord had completely sealed all the wombs of the house of Abimelech on account of Sarah, the wife of Abraham. So he was being punished, right, up until that point that if he had made that mistake, then everyone would have been killed off, right? But seeing as he was an honest man and he didn't make her one of his wives, all things went back to normal, and no one was destroyed. Yeah. So in a way, he's like being blessed for that, for doing the right, for being honest. Yeah, it sounds like it's like God's granted Abraham everything that he wants, right? Everything that he needs. If he, walked with him, was righteous with him, and all that sort of stuff. Okay, true to him, right? Honour the covenant, etc. And that's what he did. But yeah, he had to set up this other person who then, for some reason, had to rectify everything, remedy everything, the mistake that he made through guilt, etc. And supplied them with supplies. Yeah, gold, flocks and bulls. Yeah, so they got quite rich, quite wealthy of doing that. They've done it a couple of times by the sounds of it. Okay, we'll have a quick look at chapters 21-24. Okay, because I really want to not dwell